Welcome back and hello if you're new. So after the 80s throwback in 2016 that was Affinity, Haken have once more returned with their fifth evolutionary step into the prog world, and this time it's gone very dark. Something that I very much didn't expect to happen for me on this record is that I found it quite hard to get into, which I have to say has not really been a problem with any other Haken records. However, once I did get through the initial kind of abrasive listen, I was really hooked. Vector is easily the heaviest record in Haken's collection, and it's characterized by these low tunings and incredibly distortion-heavy riffs. Whereas previously Haken may have had somewhat of a more positive element with some slight pinches of darkness, Vector is very much cloaked in darkness throughout. Using the human mind as its canvas, the possibilities really are limitless. And the album is opened with this incredibly ominous electronic sort of droning sound, similar to something that you would hear on Inception, for example, on Clear. And it immediately brings you into this like, whoa, something's gone wrong kind of idea. It's a very cinematic entrance. The band also turned their traditional a cappella approach on its head, reflecting this idea of psychosis. So thematically, the album essentially resides in the idea of the human mind and the subconscious and our thoughts. So essentially, it kind of works as though there's lots of different voices trying to speak out at you at once, which is quite a clever dynamic. And this time round, the band have foregone their fun-filled worship of 80s Transformer kind of like electronic vibes, and instead have opted for something a lot more ambient, and there are sections on the album which it borders into breakbeats, for example like Aphex Twin type style on Puzzle Box. But there's also experimentation, of course. For example, on instrumental Nil by Mouth, there are these almost kind of weird video game type sounds, which, although, yeah, it's fun and it's interesting, I feel that it kind of detracted from the song slightly. But then it's followed up by the film noir-esque introduction of Host, which has this beautiful like trumpet sound after we've had the bombardment of the instrumental track, and it does really kind of sit very nicely. And there's a fantastic sense of unease, particularly on this song, but you know, the album is really drenched in this idea of kind of like, what exactly is going on here? Now, for me, Haken have never really been a massively riff-oriented band, but Vector certainly changes that, and there are some incredible examples of the real heavy elements which have always been in Haken's discography, but I think they've really come to the surface, particularly on Vector. And the tracks are overall led forward by these quite grooving riffs, and there's a fantastic little bass section in The Good Doctor. Scream in the best, but one is silence, unusual. Which is, you know, then kind of ramped up once more with even more distorted guitars and really kind of like hammers it home. The band have also opted for more of a take on Technicality this time round, and particularly with single Puzzle Box. The first and the second verses of this track see the guitar work getting more and more intricate as we progress. No escape, I navigate through. The journey's long, the shadows dance around. But when needed, Puzzle Box really brings the thunder. You know, it's kind of like Train of Thought levels of heavy, this one. Though the album might not contain any 20-minute set pieces that we've come to know from the band, it's definitely a full-on album given its aggression. However, the band have really thought out about how this album is going to flow, and the tracks are placed really well. After the barrage of riffs that was Puzzle Box, you know, we're moved into the uplifting Veil. Being the longest track on the album at 12 minutes and 30 seconds, it definitely contains heavy riffs, but it's juxtaposed against these more kind of softer, serene sections where Jennings' vocals really kind of come through. and in a weird way make it very unnerving at the same time. And definitely has the best solo on the record for sure. Vector may not necessarily be the longest album they've released with a runtime of 45 minutes, but it contains all of the essential DNA makeups that create a Haken record, and if anything, it's just proof that the band are able to streamline this approach and not get too involved. You know, A Cell Divides is a perfect representation of this. You know, you've got the heavier sections and then the lighter sections, but also it's all encompassed in this Haken package. From the Rorschach ink block cover to the album's lyrical themes, it's all left up to interpretation, and for me that's the album's real beauty, is that you, the listener, become almost like the hidden member of Haken. This is definitely Haken at their heaviest, and if you're into the more kind of 70s style prog stuff, this may scare you off somewhat. And although there were some small speed bumps with Nil by Mouth, that, you know, just a couple of things that didn't quite get there with me, and it took a long time for me to really get into it, overall it's a fantastic effort from Haken and definitely their heaviest to date. This is Haken, but not quite as you know it. And for that reason, I'm going to give the record a 4 out of 5. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure to check out my Apocalyptic Anniversary series over on Metal Sucks. Drop a comment, let me know what you think of the video, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for another album review. Alright, take care.